Dear colleagues, I'm Antanas Kairys, Chair of the Organizing Committee, and it's a great honor to welcome all of you to the 5th International Conference on Time Perspective. As you probably see, it is held virtually. And we all probably already have experienced when virtual meetings are quite different from real ones. So let's make this conference different, even better than it would be non-virtual. Let's listen for oral and poster presentation in advance on the conference page, then discuss with the presenters. Let's participate in symposia, keynote lectures, and workshops. And finally, do not forget that there is a social program. We will have a really serious discussion about hobbies. We will make some Lithuanian pink soup together during the gala dinner. We will have a great virtual tour of Vilnius streets and courtyards with a professional guide. And finally, let's chat in the small talk cafe. Check the social program on the conference website. So let's have a conference that afterwards we could say, do you remember when we discussed it at the virtual conference? And now I want to invite Vilmantė Pakalniškienė to say a few welcome words. She is the director of Institute of Psychology at Vilnius University and the chair of the Council of the Faculty of Philosophy at Vilnius University.
Hello to everyone. Not sure how should I say. For some of you, it's a morning. For some of you, it's afternoon. For some of you, apparently, it's already evening. So it's a bit strange because it's really what you're going to talk. It's about time perspective. So we are living even now in meeting while being in different time zones. So for me, it's a great pleasure to welcome you to the 5th International Conference on Time Perspective. Unfortunately, we had no chance to welcome you, as one of my colleagues and organizers of this conference said, in the most beautiful city of Vilnius and one of the oldest universities in Europe. Thus, I could say only that welcome to this online platform. I hope you will have a chance to experience Vilnius beauty via virtual tour tomorrow. So please do not miss that. Even though the conference is held online, I think it would be as important and useful for time perspective researchers and artists as participating in person and meeting other people face to face. I hope that 5 days listening, discussing, arguing about time issues from different perspectives, you will be experiencing that time flies, or much faster. At least it flies much faster than we experienced over lockdowns, pandemia, and isolation. I hope you will have a productive time over these days, not only listening, but also meeting what Antanas said, other participants in a small talk cafe and enjoying social conversations that are usually important ones or the most important ones in every conference. Usually we're forgetting presentations, presenters, but we are not forgetting when we're meeting people and chatting or discussing issue. I wish to thank my colleagues who organized this conference and made a huge effort to make it happen during this unusual time for many of us. I wish everyone a successful and fruitful conference. Thank you all for your participation, for your presentations and presenting your work and sharing knowledge. Have a nice conference.
Thank you, Vilmantė. And now I want to invite Anna Sirtsova to say a welcome speech. Anna is head of the board of Time Perspective Network.
Thank you, Antanas. And it's really challenging times that we are experiencing, and it's I can't imagine how it has been on your end organizing this a very different type of conference. So I also would like to give a big thank you for all of your efforts that has been done so far. and that's actually the conference is taking place despite all of the odds. And I'm also very happy to see a variety of contributions that are in the program. And I think it's also, since it has been such a very special time that we are experiencing, that we are also kind of harvesting some of the fruits through after that happened during the pandemic, because I think the pandemic was something that everybody felt the time, and nobody could escape it at the same time. And I think there are so many interesting effects that took place, and it's an amazing opportunity for us to discuss those, but also, of course, beyond all of those effects, and to say hello to new colleagues and experience new ways of dealing with time in this very unexpected circumstances that we all found ourselves. And I wish everybody to have a really great time, despite that we are all in completely different places and in very different time zones. But I think still it's an amazing that we are meeting once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. And now it's a great pleasure to introduce our first keynote presenter, Philip Zimbardo. I'm sure that there is no need to introduce Professor Zimbardo, as everyone in the field of time perspective research had inevitably read his seminal articles and books. Philip Zimbardo has been given numerous awards and honors as an educator, researcher, writer, media contributor, and for service to the profession of psychology. His work is known all over the world, and we are greatly honored to have him in our Time Perspective network. His ideas inspired many of the presentation at this conference too. So the title of the keynote speech of Mr. Zimbardo is Coping with COVID via Time Perspective. And during the keynote, you can ask questions using Sli.do. Just go to the Sli.do and then just type ICTP 2021. I will post the same message in chat, so just go to the Slido and ask questions. Or alternatively, you can use the YouTube chat. And if you have any questions, I will read them lately for Mr. Zimbardo. So, Professor, the stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Antanas. I am excited to be making this introduction to my colleagues and friends via a virtual format. Sadly, that means no hugs, no embraces, no drinks together, no out of the spotlight social fun that we always have at our conference. So let's recall that this is our 5th biannual conference. Remember the earlier ones, we began in Coimbra in Portugal way back in 2012. That was one of my favorite conferences. And then we went to Warsaw, Poland in 2014. Copenhagen, Denmark was an exciting program. I think that's where Anna took over. That was 2016. And we moved from just having lectures to having artists come and present, having business people. We did therapeutic family therapy on the stage. And then our last meeting was in Nantes, France, which is very elegant. So I'm going to begin my presentation with a statement of joy. Joy that we have survived this evil pandemic. But we are aware that around the globe, more than 4 million people, our fellow men and fellow women, did not survive. And in some places, the COVID variants right now are killing many, many people in many countries. So the pandemic is not over. It's over in some countries, and it's over where we are taking vaccinations. I have friends in Cuba where there have been no vaccination available. And so the disease is still spreading and is still an evil enemy of ours. One of the terrible things about the pandemic was the social effect, that we were forced to be socially isolated. So the year 2020 will undoubtedly be etched in our collective memories as one of, if not the most difficult in our lifetime. For millions of individuals, it will have been especially devastating as a year of loss through no fault of their own, loss of loved ones, loss of their livelihood and their jobs, in some cases, even loss of their home. They could not pay the rent. The year 2020, like the perfect vision metric, can, on the other hand, represent the goal of clarity, and like being fitted with corrective eyewear after suffering myopic vision for so long. In 2020, we can plainly see things that for some of us were perhaps too fuzzy to place in focus or hold our interest previously. For many of us, we were forced to stay put, becoming homebound for months on end, which for me, I know was very difficult. It was especially challenging for those who live alone to be isolated for a whole year without family or friends. We now know that such social isolation led to high anxiety and led to depression, along in many cases with increased drug use. Among couples, evidence is that spouse abuse was rampant. Some of the worst of human nature emerged during this past year. Zoom education did not work well for those young children with attention deficit hyperactivity disorders, like my grandson, many of whom, especially minority students around the world, fell behind their grade level and will be difficult for them to catch up in the coming year once they get back to school. It became a time of giving up for many people everywhere. It is likely that in this past year, external circumstances dominated your life choices. But if you feel there is nothing to rejoice about, you may be in a present fatalistic time zone. So it is critical to realize that portions of your life are not controlled by fates outside of your ability to change, but they are controlled by you. Modify or temper what is not working for you so that you can always create a better reality. Make your mind matter most. Down with temporal negatives, up with temporal positives. But as this hellish year winds down, even though it may seem too lofty a goal to reach, we can each personally take responsibility and set ourselves up to build a better and brighter future. And now is the perfect time to reset your psychological time clocks, always doing it wisely and always doing it well. Let's take time to review the last year. As we reflect on 2020 and now into 2021, what started out as what we might have come to think of as the new normal quickly took a turn toward the abnormal when we were overwhelmed by the evil monster COVID-19. This ongoing disaster helps us realize that where we are in life is partly due to our personal choices, but it's also due to a host of external circumstances. In time perspective therapy, which I wrote with Rose Sword, we ask our clients to be conscious of how they got to where they are by taking a look back at the past year, especially if they've suffered past negative experiences or psychological traumas, which I know many people around the world did. So if you'd like to do this, I suggest you review your last year personally in solitude first. Just take time, sit down, and think about all the things you experience, good ones and bad ones. And then if you are in a relationship, share those thoughts with your loved one or a trusted family member or a dear friend. Don't get stuck in all the negatives. While doing this, recall as many positives as possible. Try not to go off track and beat yourself up by thinking about how things might have been if they didn't go well or the way you wanted them to go, but somehow they did not go right for you. What happened, happened. If you hurt somebody, make a vow to yourself to make amends as soon as possible. The hardest thing for many people is to ask for forgiveness. Ask for forgiveness. If you've helped others, take pride in deeds well done. If you realize you've had a particular way of thinking or behavior that is negative, harmful to yourself or others, or just plain wrong, you now have the opportunity to change. Change your mind and change your behavior in a better direction. If you did something you're proud of, bask in the glow of heightened self-esteem. When you feel you've got a handle on your year-end review, share pertinent aspects with your loved one or loved ones and ask them to do the same with you. Accept what has been while enjoying the present as much as possible. Hopefully, having recounted the positives that have happened in your life over the last year will help you feel a little more positive about where you are now. We all get depressed sometimes. When it gets bad, we are stuck down in our own misery. Switch focus. Take stock of all the things you have been doing in your life right now. Friends, family, shelter. Hopefully you still have a job or government compensation. Then make the time, even if you don't think you have the time, to practice selective present hedonism by doing things that make you feel good about yourself and your life. Try sharing the experience with others when possible. Take time to cook your favorite meal. Take time to invite someone over to share that meal with you. Choosing to practice selected present hedonism every day, or at least a few hours a week, will lighten your mood and help bolster your inner strength to carry on in the coming year. Next is to make a plan and move forward joyfully. Living day to day is how most of us get by. We think the future is too uncertain. We don't have any control over it. So what's the sense in making a plan? When we feel this way, our present fatalism has sloshed into future negative. But by making a plan for the coming year, we gain a sense of control over our thoughts, and then we can shine a brighter light on our positive future. Your plan for the coming year doesn't have to be detailed. It can be general, and it may be more enjoyable if you include someone else in making that plan. It's like we used to do New Year's resolutions. You write, and the only time people kept New Year's resolutions when they literally actually wrote them down and shared them with somebody else, because then the other person will remember then, hey, you know, you said you were going to do this and you haven't done it yet. So some examples of things you can do is work toward improving communication skills, both at home and at work. Plan to contact those you were once close to but have lost contact with. Work toward improving your health. Exercise regularly. It's really one of the most critical things that during the pandemic, where people didn't go out, many of them stopped exercising. I used to swim regularly. I do aqua fitness therapy to keep my body and mind in shape. And it was shut down for a year. And I did not do as much exercise as my body needs, but I will eventually now. Volunteer your services at a local food bank, at a local school, at a local charity. And then what I want to recommend is learn and try something new. Learn a foreign language, write poetry, try painting, things that you never had time for, but it would be fun to try. And maybe you discover you have some inner artistic skill. Having a plan, even a simple one for the next year, will give you goals to work toward and a way to feel better about yourself and your life. Take time to write them down. I really believe in that as a writer. That is, once you put it out of your head and down and you so here it is, then that commitment is easier to keep. Because you have this document that's saying, you said it, now do it. So take a positive stand in the present and believe that the changes we make now and the hard work ahead of us will lead us to a new and better quality of our future life. After all, if you do what you've always been done routinely, you'll get what you always got, often for the worse, not for the better. Perhaps the most important lesson of 2020 is that this doesn't work anymore, and it's time to do something vital about it, to begin to take charge of your life and make it work for you. It is possible, after being fitted with a proper psychological eyewear, that we can glean important lessons from the past year while we enjoy ourselves in the present and prepare to take a leap into our brighter future. We all have to be time optimists. We all have to believe that whatever is happening now, it will get better. And we not only it will get better, we will work to make it better by thinking about this, by having plans, and always, as a social psychologist, always trying to work together with a friend, a colleague, a spouse, a family member, a neighbor. We all have choices. Continue the status quo, boo, or move forward and upward with family, friends, and colleagues. The last thing I want to mention is, can adopting a balanced time perspective overcome pandemic's negative psychological forces? Finally, as you know, BTP, balanced time perspective, should be your guide to the new you in this new year. This temporal unit involves blending 3 time positives while minimizing 3 time negatives. And now we all know there's a lot of research on the positive impact of BTP in business, in careers, in quality of life. So you are now in this new year. This temporal unit involves blending, as I said, 3 positives and minimizing 3 negatives. So focus on the past positives you can recall from earlier times in your life, not just last year, but before that. Add in some selected present hedonism to add a dash of daily joy. So think of what gives you fun. For me, it's having an ice cream sundae or black and white malted. So that's my sinful desire, and I'm going to go down to local Mel's after the presentation and have one. Next up, have good thoughts about upcoming events, plans, meetings, greetings, anticipated rewards, which combine to be our future positive self. That dynamic trio has been shown in much research to have endlessly good outcomes for our personal well-being and professional success. BTP will surely help overcome much of the pandemic's negative forces that have impacted our lives negatively this last year. So now Dr. Z bids farewell to all of you who have been hung in for this long presentation. I now can begin to enjoy as many of your presentations as possible in the coming week. And hopefully we can meet in person at our next conference next year. And as you can see, I am celebrating the Euro Cup victory by Italy yesterday, although I'm sad that England lost. They played well, but Italy somehow overcame almost potential disaster. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your inspiring and wonderful speech. And actually, your T-shirts was spotted in the chat, and someone probably from Italy says that I thank you, Professor Zimbardo, for this T-shirt. I do not know he is an Italian supporter. And then it's a discussion, and someone says that if I remember well, his parents are Italian. And then Raimonda says that you have mentioned that I think we can all see who you supported in the European Championship. So congratulations to you, other supporters, and Italy, of course.
Yeah.
So
no, my family is Sicilian. I'm 100% Sicilian. And I have a educational foundation in Sicily where I go every year, except for the past year, to give scholarships to high school students.
Mm-hmm. And Oksana says Forza Italia, if I correctly read it.
Yes, Forza Italia.
So we have one question, and we still have plenty of the time for the questions. So please use Sli.do to ask questions, or just type in them into YouTube chat. So the question is, you have mentioned that we should take pride if we had helped someone. but we often hear that we should be humble about that. How to find the balance?
Yeah, it's really an inner pride. It's the balance is not bragging to say, oh, it's the inner pride that is the fact that I reached out and helped somebody should make you feel good about it, because we want you to reward yourself so you'll do it again. So when you reward any behavior, you increase the likelihood that it'll happen again. So there's always that mix about being humble. Most heroes, as you know, I also am the director of the Heroic Imagination Project. And the problem with doing research on heroism, almost every person who does a heroic deed always minimizes it, never makes anybody know it. They said, I did what I had to do. I did what anyone would do. So heroes tend to be overly humble. And all I'm saying is take pride, inner pride. Doesn't mean don't go bragging about it, because then bragging about it minimizes the social impact. But take time to take pride. Again, if when your children receive some award that they did something good, then you should take pride in it, and help them take pride in it, so that it's an interesting balance between humility and pride. And I'm saying sometimes we're too humble, and when we should be more proud.
Okay, thank you very much. And there is a comment from Victor Ortunio. Speaking about balanced time perspective, I think we need to develop more research about it, including negative future within. How do you think? Is it reasonable?
Yeah. So yeah, this is something. Welcome, Victor. Victor and I were at the very first conference in Portugal. In fact, I spent much time. They were driving me all around the seaside, and I still remember that as one of the most exciting times of all. Yeah, one of the things that has come up in our conference over the years is the development of a future negative. We have not in the Zimbardo time perspective inventory. I always focus on the future positive, but now we have to figure out how to blend in a concern for the future negative. That is, you set a goal and then you may become anxious that you're not equipped to meet that goal, or you don't have the facilities, you don't have the financial support or the social support. So future negative is now an important concept that has really emerged out of our International Time Perspective Conference. And so we have to think about how to add that into a balanced time perspective.
Thank you very much. And Veronica asked, don't you think that the positive past may serve as the resource to resist the fatalistic present?
Oh yeah, the positive. See, again, it's what we say is so I wrote a book with Rosemary Sword, who came to one of our first meetings with her husband, Rick Sword, who unfortunately has died since then. And essentially, the Hawaiian way is always promoting the positive, always promote, with greetings, with aloha, that it's always trying to focus on, but positive social relations with people. So the Hawaiian style is being open and greeting to other people, taking other people in, as you do with an embrace, as Italians do hugging, embrace. You can embrace verbally, you can embrace visually. So it's making people feel that you enjoy being in their presence. And that's what I'm saying. It's learn how to learn people's name. Always give a compliment. That for women, it's easier. So with beautiful earrings or necklace or scarf, and then you go from a compliment about something external to a compliment about something internal, personal. I really enjoyed how you frame that question. So you give compliments as early as possible. Compliments make people feel good, and we rarely do that. And so one of my missions in life is make compliment giving more ordinary and natural.
And I see that Anna is commenting about the same topic. So
Okay.
she have written the comment, so probably she can read it too.
Okay. Good.
As we have Anna on this
I
call.
was going to supplement. Yes, that's the past positive. Of course, is very much like what we've seen in the research that we've done. It can be a kind of like a building block for resilience, for really kind of like a foundation for actually then to build up the disintegrated due to stress time perspective into kind of like a one entity once again, because once if there is like due to maybe burnout or different traumatic events, this like the totality of the time perspective, it really breaks down. But if we can have the past positive as the foundation, and it's like if we slowly kind of start to build up on that, then we can really see, and especially in the therapeutic work, if you work with the post-traumatic stress disorder, for example, then it's kind of starts to slowly expand from the past into the present, and then slowly building up again into the future, but having all of those three modes together. That's at least what we've seen. So it's like I really I start a lot of my work also as a practitioner from building up the past positive.
Okay, thank you. And one more question. I wonder how a recommendation to do something new while crisis corresponds with another recommendation to do something stabilizing, well-known, and calm.
Oh, yeah, but you can do both. I mean, our life has infinite possibilities. That is, most of us get in the rut of doing the familiar. We do what we do. We do things that we've been doing since children. All I'm saying is, given all the time you have available, had and still do, in addition to refining old skills, maybe learning to type faster, try developing a new skill. That gives you pride. I mean, practicing a foreign language, practicing some new video game. So it's whatever realm is of interest to you. It might even be, watching historical movies that typically you have not done. So for example, I always like music and jazz, and I watched a program on Frank Sinatra called Now and Forever. It was brilliantly done. So I was watching as if I was the director, because I knew the man who directed it. His name is Alex Gibney. I was in a movie a documentary he did years ago on Scientology, exposing it. And so I was able to watch and enjoy the event, but at the same time, I was imagining, if I was the director, would I have done anything differently? So I got to appreciate it even more, to say, wow, I never would have thought to do it this way. And it really, so while I'm enjoying it, part of my mind is stepping back and observing why I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And so it made it a double treat for me. It's on net, so I would recommend it to if you like Frank Sinatra. It's on Netflix, and it's just simply Sinatra. It's several 2-hour episodes.
Thank you for recommendation. And one more question is, you spoke about the like well-being during the pandemics, and how do you think do time perspective is related with the adherence to the like limitation about something about the vaccination or using masks or something like that?
Yeah, that gets, I mean, again, initially many people refused to wear masks. And in some places they had to give people a fine. Right now, there are many people, even in America, who refuse to take vaccination. Now, the very strange thing is, sometimes there's thoughts about being an independent person, not giving into authority, cherishing your freedom. But freedom is always a concept that has to be seen in a social context, social whole. That when my freedom impinges on your well-being, then it has to be modified. So early on, nobody wanted to wear seatbelts in cars. Nobody wanted to wear helmets on bicycles and motorcycles. And they say, it's my choice not to do it. But the problem was, many people got injured, got hurt, and in many cases, the society had to pay for the cost of hospitalization when this happened to people who couldn't afford it. So it became a law. So you need a law when it's law. All of our laws say everyone must do this for the good of the whole. So now, again, it's a really big problem that many people who refuse to be vaccinated, not because they're afraid, but, you know, some places a little crazy, thinking this is, they're putting something bad in me, some evil thing, or I simply don't want to be part of the crowd. I don't want to conform. You must conform when it's for the good of everyone, including your well-being.
Thank you so much. And I just want to end the session reading several comments from the chat. So first of all, Agnes says, thank you very much for your presentation. And I think it's all Italian also, salute, maybe? Yeah. The second comment from the Anonymous, many thanks to Professor Zimbardo for this positive vibe and being so good looking. And
88.
Yeah. And one more comment, so much great advice, so much remember and share with others too. And I think all the viewers, I see that we have more than 125 viewers in YouTube. Thanks to you. And it was really great pleasure to listen to your thoughts, to your presentation and your answer to the questions.
I want to ask one thing. We said there's going to be a tour of Vilnius tomorrow. How do we connect to that tour?
There is a link in program, and you just join to the Zoom room, and then you follow the excursion through the Vilnius. So as the whole conference, it's just virtual tour, but I think it's nice virtual tour.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Send me the link to the whole program again.
Definitely.
Okay.
So thank you once again. Thank you all the listeners. And we will meet in 15 minutes in the symposium, Ordinary and Altered States of the Time Consciousness.
Ciao, Anna. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.